Championship Boxing is back, coming to you with doubleheader action from the theater at Madison Square Garden. Our main event takes place in the 140-pound division as we get another look at rising American star Terrence Crawford, who will be making the second defense of his title belt against Hank Lundy. But before Crawford versus Lundy, we'll kick things off with Felix Verdejo, many believe to be Puerto Rico's next megastar, taking on undefeated Brazilian Willian Silva. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley, welcoming you to this special edition of World Championship Boxing from the theater, the small room here in Madison Square Garden. Later tonight, Terrence Crawford, the man who has brought boxing back from the dead in his Midwestern hometown of Omaha, Nebraska, makes his first New York appearance against opponent Hank Lundy, who has done a lot of talking leading up to the fight. But before we see Crawford and Lundy, another look at rising Puerto Rican potential superstar Felix Verdejo, making his second appearance in this room in 8 months. Last June, he had a unanimous decision victory here over previously unbeaten Ivan Najera, knocking Najera down twice with a left hand that was at that time riddled by bone spurs. Since then, the bone spurs have been removed by surgery, and Verdejo expects to look even better tonight against unbeaten veteran Brazilian Willian Silva. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape for Verdejo and Silva, who'll be fighting in the lightweight division. You see the 6-year age advantage for Verdejo. Silva, however, is an inch-and-a-half taller, but contradicting that, Verdejo has an arm length advantage of a half-inch measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. And they both weighed in at or just under the 135-pound limit. I'll soon be joined at ringside by Max Kellerman and Roy Jones. Meanwhile,
Green Lantern, yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. He doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat of the mic, or feels so unlike everybody else alone, in spite of the fact that some people still think that they know him, but fuck up, he knows the code. It's not about the salary, it's all about reality and making some noise, making a story, making sure his click stays up. That means when he puts it down, time sticking it up. He never really talks much, never concerned with status, but still even the starstruck. Opportunities given this type of fact that many misjudge because it makes a difference from how they right. Put it together himself, and it makes you connect. Never asking for someone's level, with some respect. He's only focused on what he wrote. His will is beyond reach, and now it all unfolds. The skill of an artist.
we bring you back live to the theater at Madison Square Garden, and because Verdejo is in the first of the two fights, it's an early arriving crowd, largely Puerto Rican in content, as they get ready to watch the young man who is already a celebrity at age 22, Roy Jones. He appears to have everything: hand speed, balance, timing, an understanding of the game. What are the ultimate possibilities, and what are we looking for tonight?
Well, the sky's the limit for him, Jim. Because of his elongated body, he's so tall, he could go up 3 or 4, maybe 5 even weight classes. So it's like, for him, we don't know where he's going to end up at. He could end up as high as a middleweight. He's already 5'9", fighting at 135. He started at about 126, and we don't know. The sky's the limit. So we're looking to see tonight, as he breaks down this other undefeated fighter, this should show us something about it.
The building blocks are there, Max Kellerman, for an interesting narrative, because his Olympic loss was to the great Vasily Lomachenko, who was en route to his second Olympic gold medal at the time. Now here they are, both as professionals, but Verdejo is already 9 pounds north of Lomachenko at 135. Lomachenko fighting as a featherweight. They may never meet in the ring as pros.
I asked Lomachenko about their amateur meeting, which Lomachenko won, and he said, listen, that was nothing. Verdejo was a baby back then. He's going to be really, really good.
And now, as Verdejo has a pre-fight prayer in his corner, let's go to ring announcer Lupe Contreras at center ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, New York City, to another edition of HBO's World Championship Boxing. Proudly presented to you by Hall of Fame boxing promoter Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated, in association with Diamante Promotions, and being sponsored by La Cerveza Tecate con Carácter and broadcast worldwide on HBO Sports. This is our co-featured bout of the evening. Two undefeated fighters going 10 rounds for the WBO Latino Lightweight Championship. President of the WBO, Francisco Paco Valcárcel. Supervisor, Luis Perez. The three judges are John McKee, Alan Rubenstein, and Robin Taylor. At the sound of the bell, the man in charge, referee Gary Rosato. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Brazil and Puerto Rico. We find out quién es el más macho. Introducing first, the challenger in the blue corner, wearing the colors of his homeland, green and amarela. When he stepped on the scale, he weighed in at 134.5 pounds, and he enters the ring undefeated in 23 pro bouts. 14 of his victories coming by way of KO. From Sao Paulo, Brazil, William Babyface Silva. In the red corner, he steps in wearing Boricua red, white, and blue, and weighed in at an official 135 pounds. In the summer of 2012, he proudly represented his beloved island at the London Olympic Games. And now, he too enters undefeated as a professional with 19 victories, 14 of those victories coming by way of KO, defending his WBO Latino Lightweight Championship, and representing Residencial Las Gladiolas, San Juan, Puerto Rico, el Bori Boricua, Felix Diamante Verdejo.
Felix, venga acá, mouthpiece, okay? Gentlemen, protégete a todo el tiempo, obedeces mis instrucciones a todo el tiempo. Tocan guantes, God bless.
You have a packed house on their feet for the first televised fight. That's not just because he has that it factor or a charming personality, or even that he makes exciting fights. It's because this crowd believes that in Verdejo, they have the real deal. That's why he packs them in.
The man who has held the identity of reigning superstar of Puerto Rico for the last 10 years or more is Miguel Cotto. And immediately you see the personality difference. Cotto is constantly taciturn, serious, devoted to his task. Verdejo, on the other hand, has a brilliant smile, as you saw there. And there's an old saying, you might call it $1 million smile, but because of the earning power potential for a Puerto Rican superstar, I call it a $100 million smile.
I agree with you, Jim.
Quick jab for Verdejo. The long arms, big advantage for him. It's an interesting matchup because you can search far and wide trying to find an opponent in the lightweight division who is taller than Felix Verdejo, and they found him. This guy's about 1.5 inches taller, but again, does not have longer arms.
An undefeated fighter who's also taller and longer than Verdejo, although maybe not from in terms of his jabbing arm.
Describes himself as a counterpuncher, which might necessitate an attacking style tonight from Verdejo.
Yeah, it might necessitate an attacking style, but to me, Verdejo is doing the right thing. He's filling this guy out, moving left and right, showing a lot of head movement, trying his straight punches first so he can try to hit him at distance. Because you never know with an undefeated fighter what he really brings to the table.
What usually separates fighters on this level is speed. And Verdejo looks to be the quicker fighter here so far, Roy.
Oh, he's definitely the faster fighter, without a doubt. What's always interesting, Max, is to see when one undefeated fighter hits the other one clean, what happens. And Verdejo just took a pretty good hook on the chin.
Yep, he covered up, but the hook snaked behind the guard a little bit. Asking Silva how he intended to negate Verdejo's speed, you'd expect the answer to be timing or distance, but he said, I just have to be quicker.
I don't know if he can do that or not, but you know, what we did see once upon a time was we saw Miguel Cotto negate Shane Mosley's speed with the jab.
Yeah, the timing on the jab.
So that was pretty interesting. Maybe the Puerto Rican can pull from the other Puerto Rican.
Well, the key word, I believe Max used it. The best way to stop a jab is with timing. And great fighters have it. A lot of other fighters scratch and sniff trying to find it. Quick jab there again for Verdejo. We mentioned that last summer against Ivan Najera, he scored 2 knockdowns in the fight, one with left hook, the other with the left uppercut. Then he had the surgery to remove bone spurs from the left hand. In his comeback fight in December in Puerto Rico, he knocked the opponent out in the 3rd round with a right hand over the top. Verdejo's mother on the right, Madeline Sanchez. His girlfriend, Elise Santiago, on the left.
The intelligence. You gotta fake him, you gotta fake him. Fake him and then the jab, all right? Go over the jab, all right? How you feel? Good. Fake him, fake him. Fake him and jab to the body there.
He's trying to get you to your right. If you keep doing, you cannot let him find you. Try to lead the ring. You got the first round. Just breathe well. Let's go. Keep it up.
You saw the graphic that established that William Silva's trainer is his father, Aloisio Silva. And you'll speculate immediately that the height must have come from his mother, because he is about a foot taller than his dad. Also has a little brother who's a fighter, likewise unbeaten at 9-0.
And fights at 112 pounds.
Flyweight.
So something is different.
Round 2 begins with a good Verdejo combination and a solid right hand down the middle.
You can see Silva can handle himself.
Yeah, he's very good, he's very skilled. Surprising being the fact that he's not around top-notch fighters all the time, being from where he's from.
That's an issue in some South American countries, Brazil among them, where you're just not going to find the same kind of sparring because the sport is not as big a deal as it is in, say, Mexico or Puerto Rico or the United States.
There have been 3 separate years in Silva's career when he fought only one time. We asked him about the inactivity, and he said there just aren't that many fighters in Brazil. There aren't that many fights to be made in Brazil. It isn't a very big sport there, so I've had difficulty finding the activity that I needed.
Verdejo being very patient here when faced with an undefeated guy who can handle himself and has that size.
And both of them are doing a very good job of being patient, Max. I got to give the other guy credit, too, because he's not taking any stupid chances. He's being very smart, manipulating his attack, and I like to see that.
Be interesting to see if against a target that doesn't present itself, Verdejo can use his speed advantage and his skills to open up offensively.
Well, he may have to use them to open up Silva offensively too, because Silva has a pretty good defense.
Well, what Silva doesn't have, it appears, is the speed to counter Verdejo. So if he's going to thrive as a counterpuncher tonight, he'll need for Verdejo to make mistakes. And there, counter left hand by Verdejo lands on Silva.
Yeah, it seems like Verdejo is doing a better job of countering than Silva is.
He's quicker.
Oh, good right hand by Silva.
Silva seems to have, even though he thinks of himself as a counterpuncher, has in this fight so far seemed to present more problems when he's applying some steady pressure than when he's kind of laying back in the cut and allowing Verdejo to start dictating pace.
Makes sense because of Silva's long body and his height. He can use that reach to occasionally score, as he does there with the right hand. Verdejo walked into the gym of a trainer named Ricky Marquez when he was 9 years old. Marquez is still his trainer. Marquez said to us, the first time I took him out to run with the other kids in the gym, I knew I had a potential superstar. This Tuesday, it's the premiere of the third installment of our 5-part reality series, Gonzaga March to Madness. Get a look behind the scenes as this year's Gonzaga men's basketball team pursues its 18th straight NCAA tournament bid. Next Saturday night, streaking heavyweight knockout artist Luis Ortiz, fresh off his 7th-round knockout of Bryant Jennings, what a performance that was, takes on Tony Thompson. Also that night, undefeated welterweight Saddam Ali matches up with Jesse Vargas.
Great. Good? Yes. You gotta be sharp. You gotta be sharp. He's strong, all right? We can't take any of those punches.
Verdejo has the kind of explosion that can turn a fight very quickly, that kind of explosiveness. But you wonder, and he's showing a lot of maturity and patience here, you wonder if he ever starts to feel the pressure to make something happen in front of all these fans who've come out to see him when he was shelved for a while with the bone spurs.
Quick right hand over the top by Verdejo. Once again, he's the one who's able to counter early in the fight.
Because of that speed advantage, Jim. Max, I think he realizes that the respect that he has to have for this other undefeated fighter, he can't come out and really worry about the fans. He has to be very smart and very careful while he's being technical at the same time and breaking this guy down, because this guy is not an easy guy to break down. As a matter of fact, Silva told us in the fighter meeting that he thinks he fought Verdejo as an amateur and beat him. Usually you don't find guys to say things like that, but not only did he say it, he's fighting like he believes it.
Yeah. And it could be, I mean, you know, these guys have a lot of amateur fights. You can come across a guy when he's 12 or 14 years old and not know he's going to be a future opponent.
I can't say I forgot many of the guys I faced, and if I saw him again, I knew him like a book.
With your memory, Roy, we're not shocked. Sitting next to an elephant.
Well, and what you're talking about, Roy, what Verdejo has to do isn't easy. It shows maturity as a fighter if he's able to do what you're suggesting, because Silva's not a guy who's giving him a lot of kind of opportunity. He's not taking stupid chances.
Not at all. And it will show a great level of maturity by Verdejo if he can pull this off.
One of Verdejo's favorite punches is the uppercut, particularly the uppercut with the left hand that he used to score a knockdown against Nahara last year. Is he less likely to try to feature the uppercut, Roy Jones, against an opponent who's taller than he is?
Yeah, much less likely, because this guy also is throwing, Silva is also throwing a very good overhand right, which you are susceptible to if you reach down to throw that uppercut.
Verdejo is beginning to sneak that right hand in with some frequency now against Silva.
What he's really doing, he's landing the left pretty frequently, but he's using the right hand as a bomber to let Silva know, hey, I can't hurt you with this punch. You must deal with it every time I throw it. Like that. You see, he knows he's not going to hit him, but he's just keeping him on notice.
And there's a look at Terrence Crawford. Rising star in American boxing, came out of nowhere a few years ago when he agreed to appear on the undercard of a fight in Las Vegas against Colombian veteran Bradis Prescott, a tall, big puncher. Terrence Crawford's veteran, well-known manager Cameron Duncan was very nervous about the fight, tried to talk him out of it. His good friend Tim Bradley, with whom he had sparred, and who at that time was also managed by Duncan, said, no, give him the fight. He's going to win it. And he did. There's Hank Lundy in his locker room as his gloves are being inspected by a New York State Athletic Commission inspector while his trainer puts them on. Trainer is Charles Ramey, a veteran of the Philadelphia gyms. Fighters who come from Philadelphia have an inborn belief that they are inherently better than fighters from anywhere else in the United States, and certainly Lundy believes that. We begin round 4. Harold Letterman, our unofficial ringside scorer, headed for the International Boxing Hall of Fame in June, is here with us as always tonight. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Well, thank you, Jim. I've got a 3-0, 30-27 Felix Verdejo. I got a question for Roy Jones. Would you really remember Frankie Lyles?
Of course I would.
Anyway, to get back to the fight, Felix Verdejo in rounds 1 and 2 showed patience. Max used that word. Roy used that word. I hate patience. I like it when a guy steps up and bangs. I like action. In round 3, Felix stepped it up. He started landing that right hand real hard. He's jumping on the guy. He's backing him up. Uses good head movement, Felix, so he doesn't get hit. Watch the head movement. 3-0, Verdejo.
We talk about great Puerto Rican fighters of the past, and you look at Verdejo, and he's a boxer puncher, but where on the boxer versus puncher spectrum is he? Right, like Wilfredo Gomez was a boxer puncher, but was an aggressive boxer puncher and consummate boxer puncher. Miguel Cotto's a bit of a boxer puncher, maybe not quite as explosive as Wilfredo Gomez was. And Verdejo here is also a boxer puncher, but maybe more of a boxer than the puncher compared to a guy like Gomez, for example.
He prefers to be compared to Felix Trinidad. How does that comparison go?
Well, he's more of a puncher than a boxer. He's a puncher who can box a little bit, because if you watch him now, he's not really doing a lot of boxing moves except the counter like that. But when you watch him in action, when he's feeling most comfortable, he's throwing some real bombs at this guy to keep him at distance.
Yes, but he's not like, for example, Felix Trinidad was seek and destroy from round 1. And Verdejo is more of, he's studying and he's circling.
Well, he doesn't want to get caught. You know, Felix Trinidad also got knocked down a lot of times.
In 4 or 5 different fights before he reached the top.
Because he was seeking to destroy. This kid knows from that you can't go out there and just seek and destroy. You got to seek and not get hit while you're seeking, then destroy.
Yeah.
So he learned from Felix Trinidad.
The boxer-puncher spectrum should maybe be amended to boxer-aggressive fighter spectrum.
Maybe.
As you can see, Verdejo can punch, obviously.
Well, it feels like everybody in the sport wants to say that they're a boxer-puncher, but the truth is, more of them are just boxers, because punching is a natural talent that not everybody has.
And it really was talking more about how aggressive they apply how aggressively they apply their skills.
Agreed.
But in Verdejo's case, Verdejo is more of a puncher than he is a boxer.
5-5.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Just that he's fighting a good fighter here who's a very good defensive fighter as well.
And wearing Harold out with his patience a little bit in the first 3 or 4 rounds.
Sit over here.
Respira, respira.
Breathe in. Breathe it in. You're doing great.
Vamos olhar o saco aqui, não? Respirou. Ó. Respira. William, presta atenção.
William, pay attention.
Ele já tá começando a jogar golpe isolado.
He's already
Não
isolating
dê
his
bobeira.
blows.
Mas quando ele atirar o jab, dá pra você tirar essa mão da frente
Whenever
dele
he
e
throws a
direto
jab,
por cima. Como nós fizemos com o Lugol.
you remove yourself out of the way.
Cuidado.
You gotta go in and out with your legs and throw those punches, right? You gotta throw, and careful with that overhand. The right, all right? Use the right. Use 2 hands, but the right also, all right?
Experienced fans of the sport may have noticed that the cut man tonight in William Silva's corner is the great veteran Miguel Diaz, who hails from Argentina. The fact that you have an Argentine cut man working with a Brazilian fighter verifies for us that it's not a soccer match. And he's the right guy to hire when you come to the United States from South America, because he's a brilliant cut man who also has functioned very well as a trainer for a lot of fighters.
And I think that was the best straight right hand that Verdejo has landed tonight.
Right. We'll see how Silva responds to it.
Yeah, that was right down the pipe.
Yeah, that wasn't one of those showy kind of roundhouse rights to keep him honest. That was meant to land.
Counter left hand by Verdejo. Catching Silva. What's your take on the mechanics of Felix Verdejo's jab, Roy?
I love his jab. I think he has a good, quick jab. It's a powerful jab. It's a jab that's meant to hurt you if he lands like that. And you gotta, you have to respect his jab, because if it hits you, it's like a small right hand for most guys. And like I said, I'm not saying he can't box. He's more of a puncher in this fight, particularly because he's trying to make this guy open up. But I've seen him do some things boxing-wise in other fights, so I think he can make an adjustment according to who's in front of him.
Right.
Whether he's a better boxer or more of a puncher. Tonight, he's fighting another undefeated fighter, so he's trying to make a statement early.
Three-punch combination for Verdejo. Finishing up with the left hand to the body.
And he's gotten Silva's respect, because Silva now comes in very cautiously when he attacks, because he's felt the power on Verdejo's punches, even when he blocks them.
The thing about this fight, as it plays out kind of slowly, is class tells over time. So over a round or two, the more skillful practitioner, it's not as obvious, but over 4 and 5 rounds, as he figures the other guy out, as he increases his margin of superiority over the other guy, it becomes increasingly obvious.
As he lands another hard right hand and the left hook behind it.
As Verdejo's confidence seems to be growing, and Silva's confidence seems to be diminishing a little bit.
Round 5 of a scheduled 10. Fans here would love to see Verdejo score a knockout, but they'll be happy simply if he wins the fight and continues his upward path towards stardom. Immediately following tonight's live boxing, stay tuned for Real Sports, featuring a visit with Laker great Kobe Bryant in his farewell season. He's retiring from the NBA, and what he's got in store next might surprise you. March 16, it's the return of my show, The Fight Game. Join me, Bernard Hopkins, Max Kellerman, and newcomer Melissa Stark as we tackle the biggest stories and issues in the sport of boxing. And there at ringside is Melissa Stark, taking in her first prize fight under her new arrangement with HBO Sports to appear on The Fight Game. And we're really looking forward to her reporting on future segments of the show. Copy box numbers through round 5. Power punches, Verdejo landing 30 out of 76. More than doubling Silva, who is 14 out of 51. Verdejo's connect percentage on power punches, very good, 39%. And as you can see, Harold Letterman on his unofficial scorecard has Verdejo winning every round so far. And you wonder when a sense of urgency might emerge in the corner of the unbeaten Brazilian fighter, Silva. Wonder if they realize that he may well have lost every round in the fight so far. Silva momentarily thinks of switching southpaw, doesn't do so. Verdejo has been known to switch southpaw with some frequency. He hasn't done so either. The drama comes later tonight, because one of the big moments in every Terrence Crawford fight is the moment when he first switches southpaw, and you anticipate that the mayhem begins.
He's much more a fluent southpaw than either of these two guys.
Absolutely.
He takes it the way Marvin Hagler took it.
In fact, wouldn't we say, Roy Jones, that right now it appears the best in the sport at switching from conventional to southpaw is Terrence Crawford?
I think so, without a doubt.
Good left hook there by Verdejo, just missed with the right hand.
If you draw comparisons to Hagler switching up, that means you're the best to do it in some time.
Well, guys switch up from conventional to southpaw as a tactic within the flow of the fight. Not many of them do it to set up the knockout, but that's what Terrence Crawford does. He switches southpaw to begin delivering the harder punches and get you ready to go.
This fight, I think, changed very subtly in the second round early on when Silva was applying that kind of pressure and Verdejo ran him into a left hook. And since then, in a very kind of subtle way, Silva's aggression kind of left him.
Yeah, it's still a good fight though, Max, because all Silva is trying to do now is that he realizes he's probably a little bit outclassed here. So he's just hoping for a Verdejo mistake and seeing can he capitalize off of one of these Verdejo mistakes if he can make one.
Very often when a fighter's on his first trip to New York, we'll ask him, so, what'd you think of the big city? And a lot of them are fairly wide-eyed. Oh, it's amazing. Da-da-da. Different conversation with Silva, who comes from Sao Paulo, because, of course, that's about twice as large as New York City. So he wasn't exactly blown away by the size of the town.
Watch coming in with your hand. All right? Listen, when I say break, no punch though. All right?
Referee Gary Rosado pausing. To help the fighters understand what he means when he says break.
But Verdejo just showed Max what he likes to see. He showed him that he got a little dog in him too.
And the crowd comes alive for Verdejo right hand to punctuate the action in that round.
You see how it's coming? It's coming. Relax. It's going to come. When you push him back against the ropes, he can't fight. You know, the referee 1-0. Hey, come with the referee. Hey, don't take the camera on there. Breathe. No.
No, sorry.
Flashing the $100 million smile between rounds. Verdejo must be feeling pretty good about the way things are going right now. Silva's face beginning to show the marks.
So make sure you hit every time he's taken. When you're done,
round 7 begins. Officially scheduled for 10. Let's check in with Harold Letterman and see how his unofficial scorecard looks so far.
Okay, so you're making it 6-0, 60-54, Felix Verdejo. I got to tell you something. Referee Gary Rosado takes a terrific punch. It's not the first time I've seen him get hit. He steps right in the middle and breaks him up and gets whacked a lot of times. Anyway, Verdejo doing all the fighting. I tell you, Jim, in this fight, William Silva, to me, just looks like a guy who doesn't want to fight. And I mean, now look at this. They're both in the middle of the ring. Verdejo gets off first every single time. Silva looks at him like, you know, like he's going to do something sensational, but he doesn't. Anyway, Verdejo doing all the fighting. 6-0, Felix Verdejo.
Sharp counters have a way of disciplining the other guy's offense.
Making him keep those hands at home.
And Silva's punch count is dropping now in the middle stages of the fight, verifying your point, Max and Roy, about the sharp counters of Verdejo and giving Verdejo more freedom to attack. Very knowledgeable Puerto Rican fans in the house. They can see when the counterpunch lands.
We frequently talk about the Cuban amateur system when we see a Cuban star on the air. It's for an island the size of Puerto Rico to produce the number of great fighters and good fighters and champions and contenders is astounding.
Speaks to the popularity of boxing there in comparison to other sports. Obviously, baseball is also a staple on the island of Puerto Rico. And we see Puerto Rican basketball players playing on college basketball teams in the United States, but not nearly as many of them as we see Puerto Rican fighters.
Punch out. Let's go, punch.
We don't see the fighters just fight. We see some of them dominate.
They have a tradition to live up to.
I mean, the fact that they have a rivalry with a country the size of Mexico, which has a boxing crazy culture, is amazing.
Mexico's population many times multiplies that of Puerto Rico.
And is obsessed with boxing.
Cinco, no punches.
It's getting easier and easier for Felix Verdejo as Silva seems less and less interested in trying to compete. Meanwhile, Terrence Crawford taking his time, waiting in his dressing room, apparently ready as he needs to be to go into the ring against Hank Lundy. The thoughtful Terrence Crawford as Lundy bounces and warms the body up in his dressing room, talking, yapping, as he is almost all the time. Lundy has had a lot to say leading up to the fight with Crawford, in essence trying to say, I'm from the street and he doesn't know street. Crawford is, of course, the guy who has survived having been shot at twice in his hometown of Omaha.
Guess he knows street.
That's what he would say. And that's what he hopes to tell Lundy tonight. In Crawford's last fight in Omaha against Derry Jean from Montreal, Jean also did a lot of trash talking. His manager, Camille Estefan, also did so. They got under Crawford's skin. Crawford seemed to want to punish Jean during the fight, even, it seemed, carrying him a few rounds so that he could touch him up more, and then at the end of the fight looked across the ring and said, did you get what you came for? He seems to have a similar kind of revenge motive going into tonight's confrontation.
And he won't be trying to tell him that he's street. He'll be trying to show him that he's street.
Good for us.
Well, he's got a real fighter in front of him in Hank Lundy.
Do you ever have an opponent trash talk you so much and so aggressively, Roy, that it affected what you wanted to do against him in the ring?
Yeah, I had a couple in my early days. Like, I had a guy, I can't think of his name, but he, if I saw his face, I'd know him. But he said he had 3 times as many fights as I had, and he did not need to see a film on me because there's no way that I should beat him only having 2 or 3 pro fights. And I felt real disrespected. So I kind of punished him quick and got him out of there, I think the first round.
Roy, the truth is, though, would watching tape of you have helped him?
If you get too deeply into that kind of emotional burn, however, can it wreck your concentration?
No, it won't wreck your concentration because ultimately, Jim, this is a fight. Now, in a fight like this fight right here, where you got 2 undefeated fighters, that could have had an effect on Verdejo had Silva came in talking, because it could have made Verdejo want to do more for the Puerto Rican fans in a situation where you got a guy who really can't do as much as you, but the only chance you give him is by trying to do too much.
And unfortunately, with 2 unbeaten fighters in the ring at this moment, it appears, at least at this stage of the fight, that only one of them has made a real commitment to trying to stay unbeaten.
One word about Roy, what comment about the point you're making is, I do think fans reward fighters who give their opponents opportunities because it means they're taking risks.
Of course.
And therefore providing more action, and in taking those risks, laying it on the line in a way that the fans appreciate. And although the fans seem to appreciate Verdejo, they come out to support him. This will be the second, if it continues this way, time that Verdejo's appeared on our air and has won every round of a fight but gone the distance against a competent fighter.
Yeah, but to become great, Max, you got to be able to do these things. You got to be able to go the distance with these type of fighters, and you got to be able to outclass them. I mean, you're not going to knock everybody out. You're not going to look spectacular against everybody. And sometimes you will have nights where you don't look correctly or the way the fans want to see you look, but you have to just push past those nights because there are many bigger nights to come. A lot of times, these are the nights that stop guys from becoming great fighters because they lose on nights like this when they have guys who they can't seem to make nothing happen against.
March 26, Andre Ward, one of the sport's top pound-for-pound performers and one of the most cerebral fighters in the world, on a collision course with Sergey Kovalev, puts his skills to the test against undefeated former Cuban amateur standout Sullivan Barrera. April 9, live on HBO pay-per-view, Manny Pacquiao, in possibly the last bout of his extraordinary career, possibly, takes on Tim Bradley for the third time. Officially, they've split their first two meetings, and now they look to settle the score in the upcoming April 9 rubber match.
He has shown you're better than him. You just need to connect one right jab on him. You win the fight. Pay attention here. Just don't let him land any blow on you. Let's go.
So Max, is it Manny Pacquiao against Tim Bradley, or is it Freddie Roach against Teddy Atlas?
Well, I think the reason that the fight is not less interesting, even though it seems that to most that Pacquiao's beaten Bradley handily twice, is the improvement that you could see in Tim Bradley, you know, working with Teddy Atlas. But of course, it was a faded Brandon Rios that occurred against. So, as usual, because of the small sample sizes we deal with in boxing, it's hard to tell.
You don't know.
It's not hard to tell that Silva's losing this fight, though, is it?
That's not hard to tell at all.
Because I think his corner just told him he was winning. Did I hear that correctly?
He said just don't get hit.
Yeah, you're ahead.
Your head is getting hit. Here and there, I mean, it's not a ton.
If they actually told him they think he's winning the fight, that's fairly bizarre.
I was trying to hear correctly. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's me.
I was busy doing promos.
Yeah, I heard something to the effect of, you know, don't give Verdejo an opportunity to hit you. But, of course, the instructions you should be getting right now, if we understood them correctly, Roy, the instructions you should be getting is you have to get aggressive and make something happen here.
You almost need a knockout to win.
There have been a couple quiet rounds, but most of them were quiet. Particularly early, that if nothing much happened, maybe a couple of judges gave him to Silva, but how many of those could there have been?
And we get a confirmation from our Portuguese translator in Silva's corner that, in fact, he was told that he is ahead and winning the fight.
I thought my mind wasn't fooling me.
But their minds are fooling them.
I know I'm a little bit off, but not quite that bad.
So,
oh, good shot by.
Good left hook by Silva.
Yeah.
His best punch in quite a while.
Maybe the idea in the corner, Roy, is to
keep him confident
and keep him upright and having gone the distance rather than taking a chance in a fight they don't think he can win.
Could be reverse psychology.
And then they'll go back to Sao Paulo and say he was robbed in New York by judges who favored the Puerto Rican fighter.
Not that Verdejo.
I mean, Hank Lundy is one of those guys who basically believes he's an unbeaten fighter.
You say he got one loss.
One loss, that's right. The knockout loss.
Well, Lundy's lost some close, tough fights. But here, it's not that Verdejo is setting the world on fire. It's that Silva's really not doing much of anything.
Yeah, but by him not doing much of anything, he's also not giving Verdejo many opportunities.
Sure, of course.
So it's not that Verdejo is not trying to set the world on fire. It's just that the guy he has in front of him is presenting enough of an issue that he's not able to set the world on fire. But that's also probably why this guy Silva is undefeated as of now.
3 minutes to go. And if you believe the folks in Willian Silva's corner, Felix Verdejo is in desperate trouble and in danger of losing for the first time. But if you believe us, it's completely the opposite way around.
You got to work. You got 3 minutes to work. All right? These 3 minutes, you got to demonstrate who you are. You good? Yeah.
World's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. They have one
Great.
more to go. This is the 10th and final round.
Está perdendo, ok?
We just don't want you to expose yourself. Make sure you keep up the good work. Pay attention over here.
Olha só, confia.
Trust yourself.
Confia em você.
Trust
Como
yourself.
sempre você confiou.
That's what we're
Okay?
going.
Olha só, luta com inteligência,
here.
irmão.
Play
Luta com
smart.
inteligência e com garra. Você tem que ter uma decisão. Momento de decisão.
As round 10 begins, we go to our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman. How do you have it after 9, Harold?
Watch him. I got it 90-81, 9 rounds to nothing. Felix Verdejo. William Silva is just I don't know, Chib. He's just not trying to win the fight. You know, he doesn't get off, doesn't do a lot. If he lands one punch, he never has a second one behind it, that's for sure. Has to throw a combination all night. On the other hand, Verdejo piling up the points with that good left hook, good left jab, coming forward, throwing a lot of combinations and landing the clean, effective punches that have been landed in this fight. 9-0, Felix Verdejo.
CompuBox numbers so far in the fight find Verdejo landing 95 punches and landing at a not too terribly impressive connect rate, just under 30%. Silva's numbers desultory, under 50 punches landed and landing at an extremely low percentage.
You might ask yourself why the promoter Top Rank would put Verdejo, who obviously there's an interest in building him into a star because he seems to have that kind of foundation of star talent and skill. Why put him in with an undefeated tall guy who may not present a ton of targets and may go the distance? And it seems to me you do that sort of thing if you believe you have the goods. If you think Verdejo is the real deal, it's more important to develop him as a fighter than to just give the crowd a show. Look at this devastating knockout.
That's exactly what it is, Max, because once you develop him as a complete fighter, when he comes to fight another complete fighter, you will get the fireworks that you want to see. But you can't just get him overnight. The kid has to grow into that person that can produce those fireworks on every night.
And over the years, we've pointed out many times, Top Rank has been more successful than most other promoters in treating the development of the fighter as a science, obviously an inexact science, but nevertheless, for them, a systematic way of bringing the fighter along through one test after another, each of which is designed to teach him something new about the craft, which he can use, as Roy says, when he gets to the moment that he's going to fight somebody who has everything, and he has to have everything himself. They're very good at it.
Trampler and Goodman and Moretti, I mean, they have some of the best matchmakers in the business all working in the same place.
Bob Arum isn't a slouch himself. He knows a little bit about it, too.
And don't think Verdejo is trying to get a knockout right here, because he is. He just got to be careful not to run into nothing big himself.
Well, he has thrown a little bit of caution to the wind here in the 10th round, trying to please the crowd, trying to land something big. Doesn't look as though it's going to happen. Sometimes it's more difficult than you think it would be to knock out a taller opponent.
And an undefeated opponent. He's not undefeated for no reason.
So I have to assume now that they'll have, yes, there you go. There's going to be a victory celebration in Silva's corner. They lift him up on their shoulders. They'll parade him around the ring. His father is leaping in ecstasy. Oh my goodness, we have won the fight. Probably not. Here's Harold Edelman's final card. Perfunctory.
You think that kind of celebration in the other corner puts doubt in Verdejo's mind, Roy? Like, what's going on? That these guys are excited. Is that a close fight? Did I just lose this fight?
No, I don't think that puts doubt in his mind at all. I think what it does is it shows him that these guys are happy that their guy could even go the distance with him. They realize the difference in categories as far as skills are concerned. And they realize that their guy came here as the B-side guy, was expected to get blasted out, but he didn't.
What do you think they hope to accomplish by celebrating as though they won the fight before the decision? It's not going to affect the scorecards.
Well, they don't know that. They're hoping possibly that it could affect the scorecards.
Judges are John McKay, Alan Rubenstein, and Robin Taylor. Off the top of my head, I don't recognize the name Robin Taylor. I'm not sure who that is, but John McKay and Alan Rubenstein we've seen before, and we know them to be veteran judges who ought to know what they're doing. Certainly after his long amateur career and his Olympic experience, Verdejo knows what to expect in the way that a fight is going to be evaluated, and now he steps up on the ropes and flashes the big grin for the many in the crowd who came to see him even more avidly than they came to see the main event fighters, Terence Crawford and Hank Lundy. And now Lupe Contreras is ready with the official decision. So let's go to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're completing the scheduled 10 rounds here at Madison Square Garden. We go to the scorecard to determine a winner. Judges Rubenstein and Taylor turn in identical scorecards of 100-90. And Judge McKay scores it 99-91. All in favor of the winner by way of unanimous decision. From Puerto Rico, el Bori, Felix, el Diamante Verdejo.
So Verdejo gets the unanimous decision win and pushes his overall professional record to 20 wins, no losses, still with 14 knockouts, and looks down the road toward bigger things in the future. CompuBox numbers in the fight will demonstrate the level of mathematical dominance for Verdejo as he lands 61 more punches, throws 96 more punches, and lands at an 11% higher connect percentage. Power punches, Verdejo landing 38%, which is a pretty good number. He'll hope to push that up against other opponents in the future. And Silva landing a total of 34 power punches in the fight. So he landed a handful of jabs, about 3 power punches per round, and that was it for the long trip from Brazil to New York. We are at the theater in Madison Square Garden as we reach the halfway mark of our World Championship Boxing doubleheader.